감사합니다. 성경 말씀 읽겠습니다. 열왕기하 4장입니다.
The words of 2 Kings chapter 4. Second Kings chapter 4 from verse 1. We'll begin reading from 2 Kings chapter 4 from verse 1. Now there cried a certain woman of the wives of the sons of the prophets unto Elisha, saying, Thy servant, my husband, is dead, and thou knowest that thy servant did fear the Lord. And the creditor is come to take unto my sons 2 sons to be bondmen. And Elisha said unto her, What shall I do for thee? Tell me, what hast thou in the house? And she said, Thine handmaid had not anything in the house save a pot of oil. Then he said, Go borrow thee vessels abroad from thy neighbors, even empty vessels. Borrow not a few. When thou art come in, thou shalt shut the door upon thee and upon thy sons, and shalt pour out into all the vessels, and thou shalt set aside which is full. So she went in and shut the door upon her and upon her sons, who brought the vessels to her, and she poured out. And it came to pass when the vessels were full that she said unto her son, Bring me yet a vessel. And he said unto her, There is not a vessel more. And the oil stayed. She then came and told the man of God, and he said, Go sell the oil, pay the debt, and live thou and thy children all the rest. Okay, right through there. Because of the corona, right now, the country is in chaos. Especially for all those who are sick, I feel that their hearts must be in a lot of difficulty. They're also worried that the disease may not be healed quickly, and also the fear of death as well. Of course, not just with corona, but as we live through life, there are many instances where difficulties may come upon us all of a sudden. The reason as to why we believe in God is because people that put insurance upon their car, it's not because they have an accident that they have insurance, but they have insurance because there's a possibility of an accident. So when there is an accident, then either maybe financially or maybe due to loss, they're not able to receive any sort of harm. So it's a little different than insurance. However, just because it's at peace, there is no guarantee that there is no difficulty that may come upon us. And also, when we do face difficulties, the life that I live through myself and the life that we live through God really is so totally different. Amongst one of my friends, as I see them one by one, and really these people, they were people that used to live so much better than I did. But the thing is that when they face difficulties inside their lives, there's no way, and there's no way for them to be able to overcome some of these hardships. But the very thankful thing is that because I'm with the Lord at all times, and therefore the working hand of the Lord that is with me at all times, I'm so thankful inside of my heart. So this morning, as I was thinking about these words, 2 Kings, and I was thinking before the Lord, as the wife of the sons of the prophets had died, and so living together with her 2 sons. And so when we think about it this time, I'm pretty sure maybe she tried to do some business as she took some loan. Now she's at a point where she has to sell both of her sons in order for her to be able to pay off her debt. So she has immense debt right now. But what the Bible right now is talking about is regardless of what may have happened, she is on top of debt. And the instances where there is God and an instance where there is no God is completely different from one another. Everyone until now, as I've lived, there are many times when I face difficulties. However, during those times, at all times, I was able to really think, and I cannot forget about the fact that how God, He has always allowed me to overcome them. At the very first time when I first went to Daegu Padong, at the time my entire family, we were actually inhaling gas. And so at the time, during that time, people were burning the charcoal. And so we had no idea that we were actually breathing in the charcoal gas. And so because we had just moved into the house and we were very exhausted, and after dinner we sort of fell asleep. And at the time, our daughter Unsuk, she was just about 2 years old, I believe. And so it had just fallen asleep, but all of a sudden she just started crying a lot. And so I was very tired and I was sleeping. And so I woke up in the middle of my sleep and then I sort of got frustrated and I told my wife, "Hey, honey, why is she crying? Why is the baby crying?" And then my wife told me, "Oh, there's nothing wrong, but the baby keeps crying." And so we sort of put the baby back to sleep and then later on I fell asleep. And then as I continued to go deep into the night, later on our baby started crying again. I said, I told my wife, "Honey, why do you keep making our daughter cry?" "Well, there's nothing wrong, but he keeps crying." And so we turned on the lights, and there was not a problem at all. And so then my wife, after she turned on the light, she opened up the room door so that she would go to the restroom. But as soon as the cold air blew in, she just collapsed right there. People that inhale in the charcoal gas, what happens is that as soon as they take in fresh cold air, then that's when they collapse. And so then I recognized that, oh, we're breathing in the charcoal gas. So what I did was I started pushing my daughter Unsuk because I felt if I was carrying her, I was gonna fall down. And so I started crying out, saying, "Please help us!" And so there was another tenant that was actually living right next door to us, and so they came out and they said, "Hey, what's wrong?" These are people that I've never seen, and I told them I think that we're nailing the gas right now. And what they did was right in front of their door in their front in the living room space. What they did was they put out blanket and also they allowed us to sleep there, and so then the next we became very close to them, and then I later on introduced to them that I was a pastor, preached the gospel, and they later received salvation. I was so thankful inside of my heart because of that. So when I think about this from time to time, oh, why did Unsuk cry that day? If Unsuk didn't cry, then all three of us, our entire family, the next morning we would all just been dead bodies. And so when I think about how God He has protected me, I feel so thankful inside of my heart. There was always one or two people that would always show up in the newspapers where they died because of the charcoal gas. And so then at times, I feel very frustrated because of the cry of the baby. However, the hand of God that is there keeping us and also protecting us, I felt so thankful inside of my heart. Everyone, for me to be able to share these kinds of testimonies, really there is no end to it at all. I can go all night long and then I can still continue. During times when I was difficult, during times when I felt sad, and also when I felt empty, He was always strength to my heart. And the Lord that was always guiding my path, He was always leading me. We first started the missionary school in 1976. In 1967, so God, He gave me the heart to be able to. The one thing that I hated the most was the missionary school. A person like me, how can I start a school? I said, God, I cannot do it well. But then after that, He was sort of quiet, so I thought that He forgot about it. But then after a little while, then once again, He gave me the heart to want to start the missionary school. And I said, oh no. And so then there's a uncle that I have on my wife's side, older brother to my mother-in-law, and so he used to be a vendor. And so he tried to get some money. So what he did was he went over to England and he was able to meet with the Queen. And so he said that it's the very first Asian to be able to receive a kiss on the forehead by the Queen and by the Majesty the Queen. At that time, it used to be the Korean England, and so he was able to start off. Now it's right now just the Korean, but before it used to be, and so long time ago on the back of the used to be Im Young Bin, and so this was a very long time ago, and the publishing used to be by him, and so it used to be when still he was alive. And what I did was I was able to visit him when he was living in Pampo. And so I greeted him and I said, hello, sir. And so then he was a little drawn back by this. And what I told him was at the time, I'm trying to start up a missionary school. And I started telling him about the plan of the missionary school which I wanted to start. And so he just heard me out. And then at the end, would it be okay for us to be able to do this together?
여러분 처삼촌 벌초한다는 말은 성의 없이 한다는 거죠. 순자 처삼촌 외삼촌
And so, even though he is an uncle on my wife's side, but he sort of said to me, "Hey, you, how were you able to think of such a thing like this?
너무너무 좋다.
It's such a good idea," he told me.
하여튼 저뭐
And so then at the time,
이런 걸 다 생각을 했나?
my uncle-in-law there, he told me, "Hey, how were you able to think about something like this?" And so he said that it's a very good idea and I would like to help you.
근데 네가 아들 내가 나이가 너무 많아서
But because I'm of age,
10년만 젊었어.
really, if I was just 10 years younger, I would want to do this work together with you. However, I will help you, I will assist you from behind, and so I will try to do everything I can. It's a very good thing that you can do this.
책을 막한 상자 주시고
And what he did was he just gave me an entire box of all these books.
성교학교를 시작한다는 게
And so for me to be able to start the missionary school really was not something that I could even imagine.
우리 교회 성도들에게 얘기를 했어요.
And so there was about 20 brothers and sisters or so, and I told them that we're going to start the missionary school, and they were all very shocked. And I said, "What is the missionary school?" And they said, we're going to raise the
뭘 먹습니까?
gospel preachers. "Oh, where are you going to eat? Where are we going to do it? Right now, Pastor, you're starving. How are we going to feed them?"
청년도 그렇게 성교학교를 시작.
And so it was 76, and that was when we first started the missionary school.
유명한 이름 있는 성교가 다 우리 성교에서 하고 있다 지금.
And so right now, all the very famous pastors of the world right now, they're all our mission pastors. But at that time, everybody looked at it, they were all seemed so petty.
김동동 형제가 고등학교 3학년 때
And so Brother Kim Dong-sung, he was a senior in high school. And that's when he first came into missionary school. And so his mother passed away. And so there was, he had, even though he had a stepmother at the time, and even the stepmother really was for him. And later on, Brother Kim Dong-sung's father also passed away as well. And so then Brother Kim Dong-sung's mother,
동성이를 상고에 넣었어요.
and so he put him into
은행에서 상고 졸업한 은행
he put him into a business high school, and so allowing him to be able to try to learn how to work inside of a bank. And so because he was there learning and also trying to have him be educated, but then the fact that he came to the missionary school and learning there, he felt so upset. And so then she would always come in the morning, not to be receiving class, but it was just about 4 or 5 people that were just sitting around with the table there. And that grandmother, she's so angry and upset. You're supposed to study well, and then I had sent them away so that you could go and study so that you can make money.
어쨌든 그렇게 우리가
But anyhow,
시작을 했죠.
that's how we first started missionary school.
이제 세계 선교회 이끌어가는 사람 우리 기본소의 선교학교 출신들이
And so then right now, the world mission is being led by all of our church pastors. No matter where you go, right now, we are the ones that are taking control and leading this world right now. And so really, it's not something that you can even imagine.
그야 아주 저는 또 선교학교 자체가 너무 제가 좋았던 게
And so the good thing that I liked about the missionary school is because
하면
whether it may be raining or snowing, right after we have breakfast, and the missionary school students, they're waiting for me. And so then we open up the Bible and we're talking about this.
내 마음에 말씀과 함께
My heart,
젖는 거예요.
I could see it's being indulged inside the Word.
근데 여러분 참 제가 이 복음을 전해서 구원받은
But everyone, of course, there are some people that were able to receive salvation as I preached the gospel. Even though they received the same salvation by the blood of Jesus,
뜨거워 감격이
Really, there are some people, wow, they're so happy and also they're so thankful, and but the other people, they feel not really much about it, and they say, oh yeah, salvation, forgiveness of sins. But surely, even though they received the forgiveness of sins by the blood of Jesus, there are still people that are flowing to the flesh. There are people that are following according to their own ambition. Among the missionary school students, really, there are those that really love the Lord. So when I look at it, actually, I feel very ashamed at times. And I feel inside of my heart, even though I'm a pastor, I feel like I'm so much worse than them. Really, there's not a single person who would be able to teach me. Really, such people, they put me down and really allow me not be able to do anything. There are a lot of brothers that really are for the Lord and really make me so embarrassed. And so even today, Brother Namdusong, he was able to share a testimony. He's just a simple, brother who he has a job, and, he's a Manheim Cyber Fellowship, a Manheim Cyber Bible College student. And so I was able to listen to his testimony during his graduation, and I felt inside of my heart, how was he able to have such a heart like that? How was he able to have such hearts arise from within him like that? As he is continuing to go to work, usually at times, he doesn't have enough time, and also, but he's continuing to make some time during the evenings to try to be able to listen to the courses. Of course, not everybody that graduated from the Manheim Cyber College that are like Brother Namdusong. There are some people that are maybe better, or some might be maybe worse than. But the thing is that people, they change. No matter who he is, they always change over time as situations and also as environments and as things change. The thing is that God, he made people change. And so no matter how much people have to change from bad to good, and there's some people that go from good to bad, but also there's some people that go from bad to good. And so there is a need for change. However, inside of this change, there is a certain grace of God, a way that is hidden inside of that. In 1962, really, I was in so much difficulty. And I felt so earnest inside of my heart toward God at the time. And I received the forgiveness of sins. We have a chicken inside of our house. And so as he lays eggs, well, it's very, high quality, and so we were never able to eat it. And so let's say there's about 20 eggs or so. What we do is we carry in a basket, and so when we sell those 2 rows or 2 dozens, you probably don't know how much the eggs are. But nowadays, like 20 eggs, does it cost about $10 or so? It doesn't cost $10? It's cheaper than that? How much is for 20? About $4? Okay, so about $5.50. And so that may be, so there's some that are $4 and $5, and so there might be quality change. What you do is you use that to be able to go and buy yourself soap and everything that you need. So the thing is that, it's just barely enough for us, our family, to be able to get by. And so then once we run out of the rice, we have to then start eating porridge. So that's how difficult of a life we used to live. We used to starve a lot of times as well. But in a time like that, I wanted to be able to live a little better. So I started thinking a lot. No matter how much I thought about trying to live a better life, there's no way for me to be able to get out from whatever I'm in right now. So I tried all sorts of things, whatever I could. The thing is though, there was no hope inside of my heart. So 1962, very end, I tried to become a vocational soldier, and then there I failed that. And that's when I fell into great despair inside of my heart.
치과 군의관을 찾아 그때 이성호 장로 군의관에서 봐줬을지 모르겠다.
And maybe if Elder Isungo, he was the one that was there, watching me, then maybe he might have let me go. But I said, "Hey, why did you want to just, get into the military like this? Just wait until your order comes out."
당신은 내가 사표를 써놓고 해도 안 된다. 왜?
And he said that even if I have to quit my job, there's no way for me to be able to try to let you do it, let you get in, because it's not your inner tooth, it's your front tooth. And so people are going to see that for sure. And if they see that you passed, then there's no way that I'm able to make it alive. So I had so much expectation inside of my heart for that. So it's not a lot, actually. It was just a little bit that my front tooth was cracked and was a little broken. But because of that, I failed to enter becoming a vocational soldier. And I thought in my heart, why isn't that working for me? Everybody else is able to do it. It's working out for everybody else. But why? Why is there? What sin do I have inside of my life? And so, as I thought about that, then later on, in October 7th, 1962, that's when I was able to receive salvation. And so even now when I think about this, it moves me so much. The fact that I was able to receive forgiveness of sins.
헌금을 좀 드리고 싶었어요.
And so I wanted to be able to give something to the Lord. I wanted to give offering.
한 달이 지나고 두 달이 지나고
1 month passed, 2 months passed.
10원짜리 하나를 주실 수가 없으니까
And so because I was not able to even get a penny, there was no way that I could even get a penny. So then my heart became so earnest to the point where I wanted to be able to just steal something to the offer. And so I thought, oh, how am I able to steal any money?
우리가 늘 잘 부르죠. 너루러도
And I used to sing oftentimes, even though we cry to day's end, I know that I cannot repay what I've received. For there is nothing more to give than this body alone. For I give this body unto you. And that's what I used to sing oftentimes.
내가 주님 앞에 몸을 드린다고 생각을 했는데
When I think about having to give up my body before the Lord,
세상에 다 쓸모없다고 버렸는데
they say that, everything else it's all useless. But, a person that has been forsaken, that's completely useless, that was not even accepted by, and I realized inside of my heart that I'm a completely useless person that cannot be used anywhere. And so this was right after the Korean War. There was no way for us to try to seek out men. And so then there used to be a lot of people that used to live without any men. And so we used to go over to these houses. A lot of times, there's holes inside the house where there's fumes and, gas that's coming into the homes. And so there's some people that just have a little bit of baskets, to wash their face. And so I was reminded of that right then. Even though I cannot do anything at all, I can go and I can try to fill up those holes, and I can go and fix some of their roofs. And that's what I started thinking about in my heart. One day I go over to a grandma's house, and she has a leaking roof. And so then I would get some of the hay and I would bind it up, tie it up, and then I would put it up on the roof. And I said, "Oh, lady," and I just fixed your roof. And so can you just give me a cup of water? And so when I think about having to drink that cup of water and then leaving, I'm so thankful and I'm so joyful in my heart. And so I just filled up all the holes, and now you're able to make your room very warm. You're not gonna have any fumes coming into your room. And so I would feel so thankful just able to drink that cup of water. I felt to myself, this is something I can at least do. And so then being very old, just like this, and for me to be able to fix people's roofs and also fix people's homes, I thought that I could do this until I get very old. I felt like I was going to be so happy to be able to do that. I've never even imagined becoming a pastor, what such. And also becoming a gospel preacher. I never even imagined that. I have a short tongue, so my pronunciation is very bad. My wife always used to make fun of me, saying, I was not able to make the pronunciation of 33, and so I always be like 33. And so I used to I have a short tongue, and so because I have a bad pronunciation, I never even imagined that I could become a pastor. However, because God made me this way, even a person like that can become a pastor.
그냥 내가 뭐 목회할 때는 아무
And so I used to do my mission work without knowing anything at all.
그 생각해 보면
But then after some time, when I look back and I think about this, and I realize that I'm a pastor. I'm a pastor.
내가 나한테
And I think to myself, are you a pastor? You're a pastor?
종종 성도들 만나서 이야기해 보면은 그냥 지나간대.
And so then
성도들은
when I pass by some brothers and sisters,
처음부터 사랑하는 거예요.
I could see that they love the Lord more than even the pastors.
그럼 내 길을 팍팍 꺾어줘요.
And what it does is it really brings me down a lot.
저 형제는 어째서
How is it possible that brother is able to really love the Lord so much?
저 자매는 도대체 어떤 마음을 가지길래 저렇게
How does that sister have that sort of heart that she's able to live for Jesus like this?
그런 걸 느끼면
And so really when I think about those kinds of things,
그런 형제 자매 날 보면 목사님 가면
and so if a brother or sister like that tells me, "Oh, pastor," and I think to myself, "Are you a pastor? You call yourself a pastor?"
무슨 목사님
How can you call yourself a pastor when I think that way at times? And I think, really, there is such a brother and also sister like that. And I feel so happy inside of my heart. I feel so thankful inside of my heart to see that.
수도자들이 우리가 이제
We have ministers. We were able to send out many ministers.
각양각색이잖아요.
Really, the ministers, there's all sorts of different types of people.
뒤에서 거짓말을 피난하는
There's some people that talk bad behind the back. They make lies and also they ridicule us. And so,
사람들이 치우죠.
if it's like that, then, if it's everyone's like that, we would just quit the missionary school. Every time we have this conference, we always have the same process and such. In the beginning, when we first started it, it's always very difficult to be able to start and do. Oh, do we really have to continue doing something like this? Can we not? Can we just stop? Why is it so difficult?
월드캠프 하면
When we do the World Camp, it's very difficult to be able to do.
재정적으로 어렵고
It's very difficult financially, and also there's a lot of difficulties in terms of what we face. However, right around the time that we do it, when we finish it, we feel so happy. Why do we not do this?
그 다음에
And so then we do it again the next time.
할 땐
When we first started, it's always very difficult. It's very hard at all times.
웃고 해도
And so then even though we're smiling and things, but the thing is that
가운데서
on all the things that which we did, there's never been a time that God has made us fall.
CLF를 하자 그랬어요.
So then we said, let's do the CLF.
그냥 뭐든지 안 된대요.
So all the brothers, they always say, no, we cannot do it.
우리가 IYF 했는데
So we first started the IYF, and also we started the Good News Corps.
군수권 모집하는데
We try to first get in Good News Corps, our students, because we don't have much college students, it can't get past, 1 or 2 years, and later on we came to the end of them. And so that's how it is, right?
그래서 우리 교회 밖에
So then what we said was, let's try to get some students that are not from our church. Let's try to get some outside students. They said, who's going to want to go? There's not a single person that would want to go here.
처음으로 그래 우리 해외가 아니고 우리 교회 밖에
And so the very first time we started saying, let's start recruiting students that are not from our church, outside students.
토마에 있었는데
And so then at the time I was in Tacoma, but it was the final day.
12시쯤 됐어.
And so then right around it was 12 noon.
100명이
It was about 100 or 200 or students that applied. And right around the evening,
올라가는 소리
it just started going up. The numbers started going up little by little. And then right around 11 p.m., how much did it go up?
1000명이 넘어서는 거예요.
It went over 1,000 students, 1,000 applicants.
300명, 1400막
It was like 1,300, 1,400. I believe at the time it was way more over, a lot more over the, past 1,400. And I thought, are we able to even do all this? Can we keep doing it? But the thing is, every single year, we have hundreds of students that we are sending out overseas.
이번에 저희들 교회에서
And
마지막으로
so then within our church at the end, as they were doing the performances and we were not able to do it, so we just had a few brothers and sisters, and then our students, they really wanted to perform so badly, and so we did the performance here.
많이 울었어요.
And really, I cried that day a lot when I saw how the students were performing and also doing that.
좀 아이들 어떻게 저런 아이들?
How were we able to have such students like that nowadays?
전 타일러가
And so, Tyler,
아메리카 인디안 마을에 자라가지고
he grew up in the Indian reservation and he tried to commit suicide several times. However, he failed to commit suicide.
인디안들을 데리고
And so, what our brothers, when we did was we brought in some of the Indian, the Native Americans, and then we allowed them to attend the LA New York camp.
월드 캠프 와가지고
And they come to the world camps. These are people that students have never received any sort of pressure or any sort of restriction. They don't have any sort of sense of time and they just do whatever they want, just roaming. All they do is just eat and just live off their lives that way.
타일러가 이번에 한국에 왔어요.
So this time around, Tyler, he came to Korea. And I thought to myself, oh, he came.
만약 얘가 인디안인가 싶을 정도로
And I felt inside of my heart up to the point where, is he really a Native American? And I could see his face is filled with so much joy and happiness. He used to be inside of so much difficulty, and also he wanted to commit suicide and was falling to drugs. But then he's tall, he's good looking,
귀한 사람
and I could see that he's changed into such a precious, valuable person.
저 우리와 같이 섞일 줄 아는 아인데
I never thought that he would be able to even blend in with all of us, but then he was able to completely blend in.
우리 이상의 그 어떤 힘이
Everyone, there is a certain power that is beyond our power that was inside of us. Pastor Oksu Park is just Pastor Oksu Park. However, inside of him, not just him, but there is a certain power that lives inside of him.
받은 형제자매들
The saved brothers and sisters, no matter who he may be,
어떤지 불문하고
no matter what he may have done inside of the past, there is a certain power, a certain strength that is living and working inside of him.
힘하고
And so that strength,
유혹으로 이끄는
and also there is the evil devil that is there trying to tempt us and also lead us out from that.
아나니아 삽비라가
And so there is Ananias and Sapphira, as we see in the book of Acts. They hid some cost of the land.
어째 네 마음
It says, Ananias, how is it so that Satan has filled your heart that you have hid the price of the land?
한 이후에도
And so even after you sold it, for were you not able to do of your own? For you did not lie unto man, but you lie unto God. And right there, Ananias died, right at the spot.
저는 그런 걸 보면
Everyone, when I think about such things like that, I really don't understand a lot.
만약 박옥수 목사
Let's say, for example, if Pastor Oksu Park did that, that's just because he didn't give an offering and then he died. Now, I don't think any person would want to come to our church right after that. They would all think that they're going to end up dying. But why was it that Ananias had to go and kill Peter had to go and kill Ananias? I cannot understand that at all.
굉장히 많은 형제자매들이
But then, many brothers and sisters, they've given a lot which they have unto the Lord.
아나니아 땅값을 감추어 놨으면
And if Ananias, let's say that he hid a little bit of price of the land, I think a lot of times about what may have happened.
만약 아나니아가 어려운 일을 당하면
Let's say that Ananias, when he experiences a little bit of difficulty,
돈을 반드시 쓸 거고
he's going to want to use that money which he hid. Let's say that his son was hospitalized. Oh, after selling everything, he didn't have much. But then for the fact that he prepared what he had,
지불했어요.
oh, that means that he already paid for everything.
또 없을 줄 알았는데
Oh, we thought that he didn't have any money. But where were we able to get some money? Oh, I see that he has hid some money. Oh, he's very wise. He's able to use it for that.
이럴 때 못 써.
But my husband, he just uses everything. He just gives to the Lord. I felt inside of my heart that this kind of heart would penetrate into the heart of brothers and sisters.
어둠으로 끌려고 하는
There's the power of Satan that wants to lead the church into a negative, into a dark way. Not just within Ananias and Sapphira, but inside of all of our hearts, actually. Making it so that you would fall into sin, making it so that you would not be able to run towards faith. So if you look inside the course of the history of Christianity,
전혀 이상한 건 유명한 그리스도 안에 귀한 종들이 죽을 때
The many famous Christians, as they died,
성도가 고발 다
what happens is that the reason why they ended up dying is because it's because of the saints and it's because of the people that were within the church that reported this.
사탄에게 속아서
And even now, there's so many people that are being deceived and also being fooled. What they do is they say that they're right and they go against the church. They say that, you know, the church embezzled money.
모르는데
They don't know what it is from, but they're being deceived just like that. And Satan is so conniving.
하나님의 이끌림을 받다가
Really, as he's being led by the Lord,
속에 빠지면
then also once he falls into the works of Satan, he becomes a very frightening and also scary person.
을 판단 다른 사람 예수 12제자 사탄은
Even among the 12 disciples and such,
제자 가운데서
even amongst his 12 disciples,
이 역사에서 자기 사람을 만들어 버려.
he made it so that he works instead of him making him use, so that made Satan worked so powerfully into that person, making it so that he would sell Jesus and also eventually used him for that work. But Ananias and Sapphira didn't ever, Ananias and Sapphira were like that as well. Even Judas Iscariot, he never even imagined, but he ended up doing such a work like that. So what's very clear is that inside of our church, if you have clear spiritual life, then the path which the church walks and goes into, you would find that same path. And as you go in the same path as God and you go into the same direction,
나이가 많든 적든
whether you may be old or maybe young, whether you have a lot of money or not, whether you're educated or not, whether you're good or not, you would then be able to live your life through the guidance and inside the guidance of God. Everyone, I think about how God, He has led me,
그래서 벗어났는지
how God, He has led me from my difficulties, how He has made it so that I'm able to rely upon the Lord, how has He made it so that He made me recognize the Bible.
선명하게
Really, He's making it so that He knows so clearly, making it so evident that I'm able to know these things.
요즘 생각해봐요.
I think about this a lot of times.
우리 교회 고등학교 학생들이
And so some of our high school students within our church, 18, 19 years old of age,
구원받는 주를 위해서
as they receive salvation and thinking about, let's say they think about, I want to give my life before the Lord.
새로운 코스를 하나 지금 계획하고 있는데
This time around, I'm developing a new course.
내년에 단기 선교사 갈 학생들
Students that are going to be going out to short missionary next year, what we do is we recruit them around April. When we do that, next year, before they go out as short missionaries, making it so that they're able to choose which country they're going to go to ahead of time.
독일이나
Let's say, just going simply into Paris, France, or Ghana, or Germany, or just not just simply going into some, Spanish-speaking country, but then for about 6 months,
유럽이나 그 나라 갈 나라
maybe Spanish, or whether I thought about having to teach them the language before they go there. So for about 6 months, as they come here and they prepare,
기본을 아는 정도
of course, knowing a little bit of the basics, and they go there, and then after about a year, they will be able to speak that language very well at that age of 19 or 20 years of age.
러시아에
Let's say, for example, going to Russia,
이상하게 할 줄 아는
and so
대학생들
students and college students are able to, if you have 10 college students that are able to speak Russian very well, it's very powerful, it's very strong for us.
파라과이나
In Paraguay, or let's say that in Argentina,
이상하게 할
if they're able to speak Spanish very well, even if we have about 10 students that are able to speak Spanish very well, then they're able to do tremendous works there.
저는 이 삶을 살면서
Everyone, as they live through life,
그냥 세상에서 직장 대학
it's simply, from the world, people make money and also just they live their life as they get a job. They just live that sort of life.
교회 나오고 잘 살아요.
And so then they just live that sort of life and they come out to church and they just spend time like that.
19, 20
But let's say at the age of 19, 20, 18, 19, 20 years of age, let's say one student says, for Jesus, I want to give my life for Jesus, he says.
예수 믿어 먹고 싶은 거 참고
I want to hold back,
배워야 돼.
and also I want to learn how to be able to resist myself
남은 생에 좀
for the Lord.
싶다.
I want to be able to live my life and the rest of my life for the Lord.
읽어야겠다.
I want to read the Bible a little more.
예수의 전도하는 법을 좀 배워야겠다.
I need to learn how to be able to witness a little bit more. And so even as he continues to study,
20
And at the age of 19, let's say that he were to live until 70 years of age, that's about 50 years. Then, if a student that receives salvation exactly at 20 and then lives 50 years, continuing on for that, then there is tremendous amounts of works that begin to arise from that. The most important thing is that the God, He's the one that's helping. And so the very first president that I was able to encounter was President Fernando Lugo. And so I met him during this time in Paraguay, and I asked him. And so Fernando Lugo, he was able to send me cop cars, and also he was able to make the presidential meeting possible. So he was the very first president that I preached the gospel to, and they received salvation. So he tried to come to Korea several times, but it didn't work out. And also his legs aren't so good. And I heard that his blood right now inside of his body it's not that clear. And so of course, it might be other things might be good, but then if you eat a lot of vegetables, then it's good for your body. So I think only Korea has, vegetables on our table. And so I think that our ancestors really were able to develop the best food possible for all of us. And really, they don't have any sort of type of vegetables which they eat. And so, at the age of 18, 19, 20, and so one student, and so he says that, saying that even if you make me the minister or also whatever it may be, I will not do it. I will only be the gospel preacher. When I think about how the Lord, He has led me up until this point, really, there's so many things that are so shocking that really surprises us from time to time. When I see, students, most of the times they're shaking, going back and forth, and their hearts they just come to service a few times and they just do this, and they're always trembling in between. Let's say that if I think to myself, I'm gonna die today, and I'm a servant of Jesus, and am I gonna live for myself or live for the Lord? And so let's say up until 50 years of age, it's so scary as to see how that person will change for the next 50 years. He will completely turn the world upside down. I didn't try to be like this. And so then during the CLF, I said this several times. 2017, when we first started the CLF, at that time, we had about 700 pastors or so that came to New York, to America at the time. So for an entire week, I preached the gospel precisely to them. And so in America, and also with the surrounding different pastors, and also our pastors of 50 people, we had a conference there for an entire week of 750 people. And at the time, all those people, they were so completely shocked. And these people, what they said to me oftentimes was, how is it possible that you're able to really solve the Bible so easily? I told them that the Bible is originally easy. And he was so shocked. To say that the Bible is easy, that doesn't make any sense. But it's very simple, actually. It's very clear. And so inside the Bible, as there was a lack of wine, and he says he poured in water, and then he told them that this is wine. To try to believe this really doesn't make sense at all. And so, because if the Lord said so, then that it's so easy to believe that. The people that don't believe this, they're struggling with it. Oh, when did I say that this is going to be wine? Oh, I don't think it's going to work out. Do you know what's the difference between water and wine? How are they able to make the wine? How is this brought about? And so then, even no matter how much you think about it over and over again, it's not going to help at all. But no matter how much you try to study, if you believe and just receive the word that this is the wine, then it's simply easy. There's nothing difficult or complicated about this at all. Many biblical scholars, they say that how is it possible that a virgin can have a child? And it doesn't make any sense. Yes, that's right to say that it doesn't make any sense. In America, there is a certain person. His wife was diligent in coming to church. And so he's a biologist, and so he's a professor, he's a doctor in biologist. And so right now I've been falling into such a ignorant pastor like that. And so then he thought to himself, I'm gonna go and make our pastor be. I'm gonna ridicule and I'm gonna yell at that pastor. And so he came for the meal, and so he came sitting down and said, "Oh, pastor, do you see that it's possible for a virgin to be able to have a child?" Yes. If God does it, then what is there that you cannot believe? Oh, pastor, I am a scientist and I'm so disappointed in you. No matter what you may look at, there is no way possible that a virgin can have a child. The fact that the pastor of my church, whom my wife attends to, really is this ignorant and started yelling at me, saying, then rebuking me, saying that you're ignorant. And so that's how the meal just ended after that. But the thing is that at the time afterwards, he experienced so much difficulty. And so then there was a certain theory project that he tried to present, and eventually it just completely failed, and he couldn't do it. And so then one day his wife, hey, let's try to invite pastor to a meal. Last time, I really did wrong, and I really wanted to invite him and also treat him to a meal. And so then 5 years had passed after that. And so he said, Pastor, do you still believe that a virgin has or gave birth to a child? He says, yes, of course I do. And he says, yes, I believe it too. He says that, and it says that it was able to be proven scientifically. And so even the hen is able to bear an egg without the rooster. And so how is that possible? It's not that it's the science, but I try to take all the science to be able to distrust the Lord. But the thing is, when we try to trust the Lord, now with science, you're able to prove and also see that. It's so true. It's just like that. Satan, everyone has put in numerous thoughts into us. At times, thoughts that may be making us distant from the Lord and also from spiritual life, thinking that that's not it. And so it puts in numerous thoughts into us. Really, for us to be able to try to have a certain heart that is much bigger than us. And so then making it so that we follow after the corruption, and also making it so that we go against the church and also say bad things about the church. He's constantly making it that way. And so a person that has some bit of IQ, it's not easy, it's not difficult at all to be able to try to come out of that. And so the thing is, because there's wisdom inside the Lord. And so the very big problem here now is inside of our lives, is that there is the providence of God inside of our lives. And so then when you just look at it, of course you may not be able to recognize, and you only see the negative things about such things. However, even if you have a little bit of heart to be able to recognize faith and also to acknowledge Him, then inside of my life, you're able to see the very big providence of God. And so then that evening, along with my wife and also our daughter Unsuk, we were supposed to die at that moment because of the charcoal smoke. And so really, surely that night, my wife and I and also my daughter, we were all going to die because of the gas smoke. And so the second cry that my wife had cried, it felt in my heart that God, He wanted to wake us up. Or else all three bodies would have been a dead body. We would have been a corpse the next day. Hey, even if I take in the charcoal gas, the Lord, He is helping me. For me to be able to entrust my life unto that God, and also me leading my life, really, you cannot compare to those things. When I think about it, how thankful is my daughter then? Really, if my daughter had not cried at that time, really, I'm a person that rarely wakes up if I fall asleep. But then at the time, my daughter, cried, and then I woke up, and I was a little frustrated at the time. I said, yes, that's true. And really, there's a lot of people that are dying because of the charcoal smoke, but I'm a person that should have also died as well. But the Lord, He allowed me to live so that I could do the work of the gospel. He allowed me to be able to save and also live because He wanted me to be able to preach the gospel. That's how I'm alive. then my body's not my body, it's the body of God. I'm already a dead person. Not just myself, but everyone. You, all of you, you could have failed and you could have been handicapped. You could have experienced a lot of difficulties, accident, but we are living by the grace of God.
그거 알면
If we know this,
생각하는 그냥 막 자기만 잘났다고 생각해서 그렇지.
people just think to themselves that they're good and that they're great off.
하나님의 손이
Really,
우리를 이끌어 가고 있는 걸.
be able to see so evidently that the Lord, He is there with us and also constantly guiding us. And so there is the wife of the sons of prophets. She was living life her, and then her husband ended up being a gospel preacher.
우리 교회 지금도 사모들 어떤 사모들이
And so then even now, there are some
좋아서 온 게 아니고
ministers' wives who are like that, and so they have no choice but to come here, and so they really had no choice whatsoever.
그냥 신적으로 흘러가면 당연해.
And I could see them having to flow into the flesh. It's so evident. When you fall into the flesh, it's not that you just fall into the flesh, but you fall into the flesh because you lack a certain thought.
성경에 7이라는 건 완벽한 수.
And so inside the Bible, there's 7. It represents perfection. If we take out 1 out of 7, then that is the flesh. The thought of the flesh is being expressed there.
인간보다 좀 모자라면 5가 되면 은혜가 돼요. 더 너무 숫자가 그 성경에서 재미가
And so really we could see it's so much interesting. It's very interesting to be able to see that.
인간의 숫자는 6이에요.
And so the number to man is represented by 6. If I truly understand how lacking I am, then I'm able to receive grace. And so that's how it is. So as the husband is praying and also doing missions work and such.
김영 목사 자매 김영 사모라고 했어요.
And so there used to be pastor's 권영 사모님, and so she used to be a pastor's wife. So she followed her husband and went to Ghana, and she was not able to lift her and said, "Oh, these bugs, you can't use the bathroom, it's too hot, I'm so crazy, why am I even here?" And so one day from the missions headquarters, and so said unto the pastor's wife, and so they told her, "Hey, to that couple, wouldn't you go into the jungle, go inside of the jungles." And so I also go to the jungles often. When I see, there's like a snake that's looking down right on me. I see that a lot of times. And so then from time to time I get so shocked to be able to see that.
그게 삶의 이 자매님이
And so then in living there, this sister was able to understand and realize the love of the Lord for the very first time. So there was a certain person that invited her and said, "Oh, Pastor, I'm so sorry, but this banana, it's not my banana, but then it's my wife's banana."
친정도 부자 되면 시집 와도 부자고
And so then, even though my wife, she came in, she's a very wealthy person and she's able to live well, but but this is not mine. This is all my
지금 내거 따지고 있어.
this is all my wife's, and so there's not even that much bananas. But then why are you trying to just fight through that? What kind of couple is that if we separate that kind of stuff? And so then the Kwon Young Samonim, she was so shocked, even though she's not doing this over bananas, but then over other things. So she realized that she was exactly the same as, and that's when her heart just completely broke, and she realized that I'm exactly the same person. And later on, she was sent over to Benin.
가나는 영어 그리고 베네는
So Ghana was an English-speaking country, and then Benin is a French-speaking country. And this pastor's wife, at that moment, from that moment on, what she used to tell me was inside of her bag, she has the English Bible, English dictionary, and then also the French Bible and the French dictionary. She would just go from house to house, and she would constantly preach the gospel to all sorts of people.
정말 그 뭡니까 모기에 물리고
And later on, then she got stung by, she was then bit by the mosquito, and later on she got malaria, and then she passed away. And so up until the moment when she was there,
너무 아름답고
it was so beautiful, and it was such a precious life that we could see.
어려운 불어 잘 못하면서
And really
성경 들고 사전 펴가지고 받으면서
not knowing exactly what to do, and also telling them, "Hey, read it." And so that's how she was able to preach the gospel. It really doesn't make any sense, but that's how little by little she began preaching the gospel. And it was such a precious sight to see. The moment that we come to recognize ourselves. Everyone, the wife of the son of the prophets, at all times, even though she was living there with them, she only looked at it with her own humanistic thought. Hey, honey, why are you going to missionary school? Why in the world do you have to really just go to missionary school? Can't you just go into church? Can't you just be an elder? Can't you just, preach the gospel diligently? Why in the world do you have to really go to missionary school? But then all of a sudden, the husband just ended up dying. He says, oh, well, that's good. And so then wanting to live so well with the daughter-in-law such, tried to get some money from here and there and then also started a business. And so business, when they're doing well, you just leave it and then it works. But if businesses don't work out well, people that end up ruining their business is not because they didn't use their brain. Think about it. If we want to use in the business that goes well, even if you don't try to sell anything or you just will sell whatever, it gets so well. And so you talk to any businessman, they all try to do that. I try to do it, but at the end they were not able to get any sort of income, and so they didn't get any sort of to pay. And so later on, this woman also came to the point where if let's say I was that woman, and so then she's able to go and then also be able to have her debt be taken care of. I would have sent both of my sons to missionary school. You may not have done that, but then I would have done that. So everyone, because as she faced through so much difficulty and also hardship inside of her life, then inside of my life, I did not know that my only hope was the Lord, was God alone, because God was the greatest thing inside my life. However, because I had not known that, I placed my heart upon the world. Why? Because I did not know such things. And so I fell into my own flesh because I didn't know that. That's why I threw God away. And because I did not know that, that's why I just consider my spiritual life as nothing. Really, other than that, there's nothing more else for me to be able to say other than that. Once we get to know about the love of Jesus, really, we could see the world becoming nothing. We could see the world as nothing. What Jesus, he said was, heaven is just like, it says that heaven is just like the treasure that's been covered and hidden in the land. And so then one day when you go and plow the land for someone, all of a sudden something gets stuck and then you open it up. There's like a big piece of gold that's inside, that's hidden. And so he quickly dig up the land and he covered it. And so then to other people, that seems like it's a gravel land and it seems like it's useless. However, to that person, this land is treasure to him. What he does is he goes and sells everything which he has, and he goes and buys that land. It's still beneficial for him, isn't it? People that do not know that, they just think to themselves, oh, why in the world will you go and give everything that, even if you're dumb, you can't be that dumb. And so people would say such things like that. Once we get to recognize the true treasure that's hidden inside the land, even though you try to remove and also try to get it out, there is no way. And so you're just looking at simply, there is no way that we're able to go and actually go away from that treasure. Even if you give everything which you have, that's why you still want to go and sell everything for the Lord. When you look at the treasure that's hidden inside the Lord, I'm a person that could have died at any point. However, it's not just one or two times that there was like that, where I could have died like that. There were numerous difficulties and also persecution and opposition and people that go against. However, up until this very day, the reason why I'm able to preach this word is by the grace of God. It's by the grace of God. When not knowing that, that's when that land has no value whatsoever. However, once you get to discover the true treasure that's been hidden inside of that land, really you can give up everything which you have and still be able to you will be able to go and want to buy that. When you do not know about the love of God, when you do not know about the heart of God, then that's when the Lord He seems nothing. When people they're falling into their own flesh and also they're falling into their own way when they do not know about that love of God, but that grace, that love, that death which He gave, and also the Lord that made me righteous. When I think about that, what do you think the woman caught in the act of adultery did when she went into that house? Oh, she only had thankfulness inside of her heart. Oh, I did not get hit by a single rock. And she is able to wake up from her sleep and she says, oh, I'm able to sleep. I'm able to wake up. Even as she eats, she's eating thankfulness. And she cannot forget about that Jesus inside of her heart. The Lord who saved me from the eternal destruction and also allowed me to become a child of God. What if we're a little poor? What if we're a little bit, in difficulty, and also what if we're instead of a hardship? If that Jesus, He is with me. But Satan is constantly putting thoughts inside of us and tells us, hey, not towards Jesus, towards the discussion, to the corruption, and also towards the ambition, and also the greed, and all these things that are of the world, and He's constantly pulling me into that life. Everyone, before having to see the truth and also the heart of Christ, really we could see that they're all falling into that direction. This morning I was able to have a long conversation with the wife of the son of prophet. And so at the end, what I did was I asked the wife of the son of prophet, what happened to your two sons? And it says, of course, they went to the missionary school. They went to the missionary school. What is there to ask about? They all became great pastors and also. And so one right now is in America and one right now is over in right now in Germany, and they're able to live very well. Their couple lives so happily. They're able to live such good lives. Everyone. Satan makes it so that we look down upon Jesus, makes it so that the church becomes laughable, making it so that it doesn't seem like it's anything. Everyone, when you get to know about the love of Jesus, yes, I received salvation. My father received salvation before he passed away. And so that's why I always said, my brother, older brother, he always said, oh, I'm such a disobedient child. But I thought to myself, oh, I'm an obedient son though. Is that right? Why? Because I sent my father into the heaven. There's no more greater obedient child. That I used to be always a troublemaker and also used to cause a lot of hardship to him. But there is no obedient son more than that. And I'm going to be able to meet him in heaven later then. My older brother, he would always say, oh, I'm a disobedient child. But then into my heart, I always thought to myself, but I'm an obedient child. And so then we went to the funeral. And so they had a lot of this pork that was out. And then I ate a lot of it. And I ate the first time and I ate the second time. And then my brother, he just sort of looked at me. He thought to himself, he calls himself a pastor. But then, is he crazy to be able to say that he's eating pork when my father passed away? But then I was not sad at all. I was going to eat 3, but then I only ate 2 dishes that day. I'm living in a different world. And so he tried to set up a tombstone and say, hey, don't try to do that. And then he told me, hey, don't say that. I know that this is nothing at all. But then because I was so disobedient to him, if I could do this at the least, it's going to bring me peace inside of my heart. So don't try to stop me. And so then eventually, I couldn't stop him. He's always crying, and also he was always in sadness inside of his heart. And really, there is no. When I think about it physically, in terms, he really did a lot for my father. And so then my brother, my older brother, he really had so much respect, and I never was able to treat my father just the way that he did. But then inside of my heart, I really feel in my heart that I'm much more of an obedient son than my older brother. Why? Because I sent him to heaven. As I became a pastor, the best thing that I did was I allowed my father to go to heaven. So that's what I'm so touched about inside of my heart. Just because you're a pastor, it's not an occupation where you just eat and live off of this. This is where you gain happiness. This is where you gain joy. This is where you gain tomorrow. This is where you gain so much joy and happiness inside of your life. Everyone, there are so many people that believe in Jesus, but they're not happy because of Jesus. There are some people that are living their lives, and even though they believe and they follow Jesus, but they're being deceived by Satan. Everyone, when Jesus and us we become one, then we don't need anything inside of our lives. And that woman that was going to be sold, once she became one with Jesus, nothing became a problem. She became completely one. I'm pretty sure those two sons, they all went to missionary school. I'm so thankful to think about that. Everyone, let us look towards Jesus. Let's think about the grace which he provided us with. A dirty person like me, let's think about how he had shed his blood for us. Let us look upon his blood to wash away my sins. And as Peter, after he left Jesus and also went his way to be able to go, let's listen to what Jesus he had to say. Everyone, you will never be able to fall into the world and towards the flesh. Everyone, as we are always talking, allow us to be able to converse and also talk together with Jesus. It will be such a blessed time. Let us pray individually before the Lord.